Frederick Ogenga is a Southern Voices Network for Peacebuilding Scholar with the Wilson Center's Africa program. He's also head of the Department of Communication, Journalism, and Media Studies at Rongo University College in Kenya, and is founding director of the Center for Media, Democracy, Peace, and Security. He joins us today to talk about the role of women in violent extremism in Kenya. Frederick, thanks for joining us. Welcome to Now.
Thank you.
Let me ask you about the current situation in Kenya in regards to women and their involvement in violent extremism. Is this an area of growth, so to speak? Are more and more women being recruited?
Yeah, we are actually at the point where we are very actively engaged in research out of seeing results of an incident that happened that really raised the red flag to the possibilities that women would actually be recruited somewhere behind the scenes in violent extremism. So we might want to...
what was the incident? What happened?
In that incident, actually, 3 women went into a police station in Mombasa and they wanted to terrorize the police officers there. One was having a suicide bomb vest, which did not detonate, but the other one was carrying a petrol bomb and a knife, and they held those to the officers, stabbed one of them, and the place was on fire. Of course, the 3 women were shot dead. But then that one shocked the public and alerted us as scholars to the possibilities that there could be something happening that we don't know. So we are really in the middle of research, and we are thinking that chances are very high that women are actively being recruited and are involved in violent extremism.
What have you found out about either methods of recruitment or what types of messages are appealing to women? Because as you said, everyone was surprised by this and somehow assumed that women were less susceptible to these recruitment pitches than men were.
I think what we have discovered is that at least from the research, is that these women, out of the fact that Kenya has a deep cell phone penetration, internet-enabled cell phones, and that allows them to interact in different social networks. So most of these women, from the literature, we see that they are being recruited by friends from social networks.
Person-to-person recruitment.
Person-to-person relationship kind of recruitment. And they get lured into these discourses that make them fantasize about wanting a better life and escape from the difficulties that they are facing in the society.
It would seem that this type of recruitment, or in the United States it often is referred to as radicalization, that person-to-person would be the most difficult to stop.
It's quite difficult to stop, and that's why we are really advocating ways of using technology so that we can see how we can tap into that difficulty and perhaps help in stopping that kind of recruitment, because it involves emotion, it involves relationships that have been built up, and partly why we see incidences of violent extremism and we want to deal with them as an event, which is problematic. We don't realize that at some point, relationships were built up over a period of time. And the manifestations of these radicalizations as a result of people who invested on person-to-person interaction and over time managed to convince and change minds and hearts of people. And then all of a sudden it blows up and we now begin to see and think about it.
So what is the pushback? Is it a sort of a public information campaign? How do you use media to push back?
I think the media can be used as a counter strategy, but not to the extent that we want to use the media for preventive approaches that are more of hands-on in terms of getting rid of the threat of the violence, in terms of an incident like the incident I just described of Mombasa. But we want to look at it from media operating on a bottom-up approach. We call it bottom-up then out. So we are going to the community with what we're calling community radio for peace building. So we create a space so that this space can be where these frustrated youths can use to air their own grievances.
So another outlet.
An outlet to air their own grievances. And they can talk about different experiences and share ways of coping up with those kinds of difficulties, so that we can begin creating some chains of resilience around the youth in the community. So we are thinking that since Al-Shabaab is also targeting highly educated youth from the universities and so on, we are thinking that the university is the potential site where we can pilot these projects, so that we use campus peace ambassadors who would be running those different kinds of programs where people just talk and interact and call in. And from that, we think that the youth would be in a position to speak about what is affecting them and divert their attention from ideas that would otherwise compel them to go and become jihadi brides or terrorists in Somalia.
Now, do you have a launch date in mind? I know that your tenure here at the Wilson Center is coming to a close and you'll be returning to Kenya. Is there a launch date in mind?
Yeah, actually, I just had my launch date yesterday. It was a surprise. It was like a surprise birthday. And it was quite interesting. And I was telling them that really the Wilson Center has done great, fantastic work in giving me this opportunity. That is actually a stepping stone towards getting more literature in the area that is lacking in Africa. And the other day, actually just today, I was receiving an email from some top military female officer working with the British Army, and she's doing research on communication, media and communication technologies and their implications in combat when countering violent extremism.
So she heard about your research and
yeah,
contacted
she
you.
actually saw the podcast.
Uh-huh.
She actually downloaded the podcast and listened to it, and she thought the analytical framework that I was putting across was quite interesting, which is talking about Pan-African philosophical approaches to peace journalism in the context of gender and peace building. Yeah, so that holistic approach that wants to locate and nuance issues of gender, issues of patriarchy, issues of demographic issues surrounding those who find themselves in the middle of violent extremism. And you want to look at these things not in a simplistic, linear way, the way that it would appear in a more sensationalized media.
One final question, because you mentioned the interest from Great Britain in this case. Well, have you looked around regionally? Are there other countries or other places where people are attempting similar activities than what you're about to do in Kenya?
Looking around, actually it appears that there's no one that is centering on those activities that I'm thinking about, and that's why interesting folks are calling from all over the world. The other day I was also on VOA trying to discuss about the possibilities of how the internet is actually active in recruitment as a recruitment site for female violent extremism. And you find that we're still in that murky area where the literature is still gray. And part of what the Wilson Center has done, it has opened that avenue so that we can begin piling up the literature. And this literature will lead our research to different directions so that we can conclusively now begin having a knowledge hub, a one-stop shop of violent extremism and how we can counter it using multiple approaches and multiple stakeholders.
Well, Frederick, it's clearly important work, and it sounds like you're at the head of the line, you're in the lead. So we want to wish you continued success, and thank you for your time here at the center.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Pleasure. Thank you.